So the Bears game happened, and I'm just going to say this now after taking a couple days to relax. I have seen a lot of things that are good and a lot of things that are bad. However, with that being said, I don't necessarily think that we should be overreacting the way that most people are right now. Was it a typical Bears game? Some may say yes, and I can be inclined to agree with you on that. But there's one thing that people have failed to really consider about this. This was a typical Bears game against a Super Bowl contender. If this was the Panthers, the Giants, or like any other bottom tier team, I'd understand. But this was the Texans. The Texans. A team that's probably going to be competing for a Super Bowl come January. And we kept it within a score for 75% of the game, maybe even 90%. I'll have to go back and look. But regardless, the Bears played a good game of football on defense. Offensive-wise, yeah, it wasn't that great, and I'll get into why that's a bit. But before we do that, I just want to sit here and go over some of the negatives of the game real quick, since I'm going to be relatively more positive about this. Negative number one, I don't think the offensive line was that good. And most other people don't think so either. The offensive line was not playing at all of what they should have been around this time. Granted, we still have a fairly young group of players, and granted, we are a little bit injured at line right now. But for the love of God, Coleman Shelton looks terrible. And not to mention, too, it doesn't help that when the salt is rubbed in the wound, Lucas Patrick had one of the highest PFF grades. A lot of Bears fans are now really upset because it's like, when is this going to happen to us? And it's going to start feeling like we're cursed again. But all that aside, Coleman Shelton played like terrible. Nate Davis played like awful as usual. But that's expected for a guy who's already shown what his peak performance is. Kevin Jenkins did also not have the greatest game of all time, but I don't think he was an active liability compared to the first game. Tackles did fine. Darnell Wright had one or two bad plays, but mostly held up nice against Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Meanwhile, Braxton Jones, same issue, except he might have had a couple more bad plays than Darnell Wright. But regardless, offensive line needs to get better. We need to learn how to pick up a stunt. I don't know how hard that is. That's literally stuff that you were taught in freshman year. They're not communicating at the line at all. It's just a shit show. Complete and utter shit show right now. And going on to a little bit more negative topic, Caleb Williams did also not play particularly great after the first drive. Granted, he did all right for the first drive. He got down the field, he scored a field goal. That's kind of what you were hoping for. But afterwards, it just did not go to plan. He forced a couple of throws. He made a couple of questionable reads. But he still is going to do that as a rookie quarterback. That's going to happen. He didn't actively lose the game. If it's anything in the past that says, most of the time the quarterback is what loses us the game. But Caleb Williams wasn't the active losing person in this game. I will also bring up a dishonorable mention to the running backs. I still don't think it's that much of an issue, but DeAndre Swift needs to play up to his contract. And another dishonorable mention to Chris Morgan. Jesus Christ, dude. If you can't teach your linemen how to block people accurately, it's going to be bad. Now that I have all the negatives done and out of the way like I wanted to, I can now finally discuss how the Bears and Texans game was one of the better games for Caleb Williams and his development. Now you may be saying, you sound crazy, what the hell is going on? Now let me just bring this up straight and flat out. You're keeping it close to a potential Super Bowl contender, and you kept it within 6 points. This is a Bears team that normally, whenever that happens, we have to have some freak accident happen. But no, there wasn't any freak accidents for most of the game, unless you call Andrew Billings thinking the football is a cheeseburger and headbutting it out as a freak accident. But The Bears kept it close. They made C.J. Stroud look mortal. They kept most of their wide receivers within locks. Granted, Nico Collins got a little bit hot in the first half, but when it came to the second half, none of their wide receivers were existent. Tank Dell dropped a touchdown. Stephon Diggs wasn't mentioned at all. Dalton Schultz was eh. And not to mention, too, the run game looks significantly better from last week. And it's like everyone's been telling you, and everyone's been saying online, the Titans have a pretty decent line. They're not the greatest at pass blocking, but man, can they run block. And they got us on one drive where Tony Pollard just held the ball 30 million times. So we can finally keep quiet about the whole, the Bears defense has regressed. If anything, this Bears defense has shown that it's gotten better over the offseason. Tyreek Stevenson had a couple of bad plays in the first half, but then he ramped it up. And then he got to a point in the second half, like he normally does, where he's a lockdown corner. That's the thing with Stevenson. Sometimes he's just going to, he's going to get beat on a couple of plays, but then once it comes down later on down the line where he can't get beat on those plays, he doesn't get beaten anymore. He's a bounce-back corner, which for a second-year guy that should have been in Defensive Rookie of the Year contention, that's what you want to see. D-line looked, pretty good. D-line was actually kind of solid for once. Andrew Billings might single-handedly be one of the most underrated pieces on our team because he's just a big guy who can do anything. But I remember on one of the plays, Andrew Billings was getting triple teams and he almost got to C.J. Stroud. God, Andrew Billings. Hashtag fat guys matter too. On the other hand, Gorvon Dexter had a good night. The edge rushers looked pretty good. The defense looked like a good group. And I have to give credit to Matt Eberflus. He made some horrible challenges, but you know what? You want to know something that Matt Nagy, John Fox, etc., didn't do? They didn't know how to adjust in the second half. And you want to know what Matt Nagy did? He adjusted. He allowed the Texans the 3 points in the second half, which, dear God, you're letting one of the most electrifying offenses in the NFL get only 3 points. You're doing something right. And I'm tired of everyone saying, he's losing a ton. He's not doing too awesome. He's not doing too great. He's doing perfectly fine. Matt Eberflus is a competent head coach and can lead a team with a good enough group of players to a sense of culture. He's Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor took his team to the Super Bowl. Granted, it was behind Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and all that. But he's still a decent caller when it comes to play calling. Matt Eberflus can be that as well. He doesn't have to be John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh. He doesn't have to be Andy Reid. He doesn't have to be Kevin O'Connell. He doesn't have to be Matt LaFleur. He has to be Matt Eberflus. And he's doing a decent enough job at head coach. Now going on to the other side where offensive play calls are being called, Shane Waldron. On one hand, Shane Waldron looks infinitely better than Luke Getsy, and I'm going to be honest, I don't think he's had enough slack yet to do something. However, there are some things I'm annoyed with. Cole Kmet's uses is not that much, and I want him to be used more rather than Gerald Everett. Not saying Everett's a bad guy, but he should not be the pass block. He should not be the guy blocking. Not to mention, too, where in the world is Roschon Johnson? He was inactive the first game, active for this game, but he still hasn't been used. So I don't know what's going on with that, but there needs to be more running back usage. And if you're going to have Swift be a main back, well then you need to either simplify the blocks more, or better idea, teach your offensive line to block better and pick up stunts. Other than that, we need to stop overreacting as Bears fans. We have done so good this offseason, and so far this season has been way better than where it was last year. Solely just because you kept it close with the Texans on primetime in some of our worst performing jerseys to 6 points. Granted, jerseys and like primetime games don't overly matter or whatever. But like the fact of the matter is, everything was telling for this to be a bad Bears game, and they kept it close. And the thing is, the Texans and Titans, they're both teams with really good defenses. It's going to happen with a rookie quarterback that's not going to perform very well when his first two challenges, when he's coming from a conference that's not exactly known for defense, is the fucking Texans and the Titans. Guys with great defensive linemen who can easily change the game because you have very young offensive linemen and guys who are on one-year deals. It happens. But going forward, Caleb Williams now gets to go and have a little bit of an easier time. 4 of his next 7 games are against teams with bottom 5 defenses currently. The Rams, the Commanders, the Panthers. And I'll give him that one. I forget the other team right now. But I want to say that I believe it's the Colts. Yeah, it's the Colts. But yeah, all those teams are playing horribly on defense. And now's going to be the time to win. Because come week 10, week 11 technically, because after you win on week 10, it'll be week 11. But regardless, that's when the season starts. And you want to be somewhere where you're, you want to be like 8-1, 7-2, like 6-3. You want to be around that range. I don't think this team's going to go very far if they're 5-4. And dear God help me if they're 4-5. Something went majorly wrong. But the fact of the matter is, we are overreacting way too much about this team. The Texans played a very sloppy game of football, and we didn't super capitalize off it. That's fine. You want to know something? This game doesn't matter when it comes to Week 18 against the Packers, where we might have to win that game to sniff the playoffs. We need to be rational about Chicago. The season isn't decided by Week 2. If that was the case, football would not be a very popular sport. I would be more worried if the Bears lost by 30, but you lost by 6. And at the end of the day, I've said this once and I'll say this again. The old Bears lose that game by 20, 27 points. But these Bears are losing by 6. They're fighting back. They know how to get an idea of winning. You just need a couple of games to get your rookie QB into a better mindset of, oh wow, these are what typically I'm going to be facing most of the time, and you can start to build confidence with him. Wow, that's so much better than having to go up against Derek Stingley and I even forget his name now. It's not Trent McDuffie, but he was just traded to the Chiefs. I'm gonna probably get proven wrong here, but it's night and day. It's literally night and day when the Bears are going to be playing those two teams compared to the next 7. There's a reasonable chance the Bears could be 8-1 by the time they play everyone in their division. And if you're 8-1 by that time, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. All you have to do is win a couple games. Granted, it's rough as hell, but Jared Goff isn't playing too well in Detroit. Who knows how Jordan Love's going to look once he comes back from injury. And granted, as well as Sam Darnold's been playing, if Sam Darnold really is the new Ryan Fitzpatrick in the NFL, he's going to have a couple of stinkers. But that all being said, I'm happy. I am not upset. I am actually looking forward to Sunday because guess what? Caleb Williams gets to hopefully throw his first touchdown pass. I know I forgot to mention this earlier in the video, but oh god. 1 touchdown drive in 8 quarters is also something I need to talk about. It's bad. It is really bad. But it doesn't matter. The Bears, they're getting to a better place. You can't just let all this former past bullshit keep up with you. This is a different organization, and it feels different. This isn't the McCaskies running the show, it seems. You felt like that with Matt Nagy and John Fox and etc., etc. You don't feel that with Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and Matt Eberflus. So, patience is a virtue. We just need to calm down. And who knows? Come back to this video when it's like, I don't know, the game after Sunday, and like Caleb Williams throwing 3 touchdowns and like he has 350 yards. Then we're going to be looking at the Texans games like, oh my god, why did we worry about this? But regardless, thank you for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that bullshit. And we got a chance.